Well, welcome everyone. Yeah, appreciate everyone joining today. This is the AIA East Bay New Home Town Hall. Glad y'all could make it and hope the discussion is good and we can answer any questions you may have. As we've been looking at the offices and looking through these different counties, I always want to thank all the people who have gone into get into where we are now in this presentation. So I am the board president, Brian Stryzik, and we have a group of really dedicated people on the executive committee, the board of directors, many who are here today. And I want special thanks to the AIA East Bay staff, Mike Wilson and Sydney Yoakum, who are been integral in trying to discover a space. And we're all doing this for all of us, for the membership of the AIA East Bay, which is over 900 people now. And we want to find a place that is really wonderful for all of us. And we thank you for your continued membership. And let's get into it. So the agenda today, we'll be talking about the journey of what we've been doing over the past couple of years once we let go of our space in downtown Oakland. Our office decision framework, how we've come to a decision that we think that the Brower Center is a valid and wonderful space for our organization, then going deeper into the Brower Center, and finally opening it up to discussion. So starting out, we were in our 1505 Clay Street home for almost 20 years. We did not renew the lease during the pandemic. It was October of 2020, I believe. And so we've been doing things virtual, which made sense due to the pandemic and financial savings that we got from that. But we've kept our eyes on trying to rediscover a new space. These are some pictures of the old space. It was a storefront a couple blocks away from Bart's. Had two offices, a big meeting area, which we filled often and had this opportunity for engagement to the outside on Clay and 11th.
Hey, Brian, would you do me a favor? Your slide is not full screen, and I'm worried some people might not. There you go. That's much better.
Okay. So getting back to this, ending our journey here, we've looked at different types of spaces, from co-working to just the typical office rentals like we used to have, shared office space, and then shared office spaces with other organizations that are like-minded. To recap, overall in late 2020, we let go of our lease. We started looking for spaces. We held a brainstorming session, which all the members were invited to in April of 2021. And Mike has taken the majority of this work of looking at over 100 available spaces in the inner East Bay area. We got interested and pursued a few, which we can talk about if need be. And then in April 2022, we got a tour of the Brower Center and just saw all of its potential, which is in downtown Berkeley. This month at our board meeting, we approved moving forward with this town hall meeting that we're having now. And here's where we are, May 2022, town hall meeting. Our intent is to sign a lease in June on the Brower Center and then move in July with a membership open house occurring shortly after that. Oops. So the way we kind of framed how we were looking for spaces and how to actually decide on a space that would be good for the chapter is we looked back at our mission statement, our values, and our vision. The Brower Center really supports all of those and really backs those up. And we can go deeper on that, but I just want to say that this is kind of our framework for making decisions for anything that we do in the organization, but in particular, this office space. We also looked at our 4 counties that we are that are part of our membership, and looking at different cities, their populations of the counties and cities within it. We have a lot of people in the inner East Bay that are members, and it kind of fits in with the actual population of these cities and counties. Then just looking at our membership, overall, as you can see, big concentration in the Oakland, Emeryville, Berkeley area, and then more as you skirt outboard of that. When you look at our old office, being in Oakland, there were 220 members in that, in Oakland. If you add up Albany, Emeryville, and Berkeley together, you're pretty much the same. So membership of this area above Oakland is about the same as Oakland as a single entity. And then as far as our program decisions, we still wanted to have the 2 offices. We were used to that at the old space. We think that would fit well for our current needs and future needs. We want to be able to have a space that we could have meetings at up to 25 people. The Broward Center actually accommodates more than that. Storage, close to transportation, and then the opportunity to be able to have bigger events and special events with close to our space that we're at. Broward Center's been pretty amazing on that, and we'll go into that as we get into the Broward Center. And then opportunities to really engage the general public and other design professionals. So the Broward Center, for people who don't know it, it's downtown Berkeley. This is the UC campus. This is this dashed line here. Worcester Hall, the architecture building, is here. Broward Center occurs here. It's a block and a half away from downtown Berkeley BART. Has public parking underneath it. It's part of this commercial district, if you're not familiar with Berkeley, where you have bars, restaurants, shops, really active location that helps out with the university. The building itself has a really strong mission of being environmentally friendly and really moving forward and advancing that agenda. Currently, there's 20 nonprofits in the building. They host a conference that has 130. They have a conference center. They host 350 events a year. That means 46,000 people are coming through this building without us being there. So really great opportunity to be with like-minded organizations and be part of that community and really contribute to advancing the amount of people attending these events. It also is a LEED Platinum building. It was always the mission of the Broward Center to be advancing the environmental goals. So it's highly sustainable. And the design is by Dan Solomon before he merged with Methuen, with some really beautiful interior spaces. Our tenant space would be on the 3rd floor of the Broward Center. It is this blue space here. Full set of windows facing out. You can see these Bay Hills through these windows. Has a shared bathroom or common bathroom shared with the other tenants on this floor. And it's about 1,600 square feet of space. This bigger image is looking from here up. And these are looking back at this enclosed office back here. The Broward Center also offers this opportunity to have these varied meeting spaces that the AIA Bay can use. They have a big auditorium, which is a gorgeous space. They have this main lobby that is used for art exhibitions, but we could also use it for some displays for our work or our members' work. It opens up to this auditorium. They also have other spaces of various sizes. This is a space on the 2nd floor, a big courtyard that opens up to for more conference events, which is really great. I've been to a conference there. It's wonderful. And then you just have the terrace itself, which we can occupy and enjoy using. So summary, the Broward Center, we feel like really meets these values, our filters that we make decisions by at the AIA Bay. its design, its sustainability. It's wonderful building. It's very sustainable. It's diversity of people around in the building. It really offers professional development, stability of having our permanent space again. And the building itself is really advocating for things that we believe in. It really helps out with our vision statements, things that we're trying to proceed with at the chapter, which is opportunities to engage membership, increase in student engagement, being so close to UC Berkeley. There's really a great symbiosis that can occur by being located so close to that. Creating these alliances with organizations that are in the building seems really exciting. Opportunities to share each other's work and produce more educational programs. I think this building really allows for all of those things to occur. It's centrally located with great transportation of BART, buses, and public parking if you decide to drive. It meets our budget that we set out in December of 2021, accommodates our office program needs, and it has these unique opportunities that other spaces that we've looked at don't. So that's the presentation. We can go deeper on anything that you want to go deeper on, but we're really here to hear your thoughts and get your opinion, and really thank you for being here and participating in this conversation.
Nice presentation. This is Frank Jesse. Can you hear me okay?
And
yeah, I'd be anxious to hear a couple of things. One, do we have it under some kind of a binding letter of intent so that it won't get snatched out right when we're ready to go? Number one. Number two is, where are we on the lease negotiations? Number three is, what's the duration of the lease and what options do we have going forward beyond that? And who is the landlord? Are there opportunistic landlord, or is it one that is going to be sympathetic, like you indicated in your presentation? Really anxious to hear the business terms to make sure we're protecting. I know you've looked at this. I don't want to sound like you aren't, but I want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves appropriately. It's been my career really to manage real estate portfolios for corporations, so this is right up my alley. So that's why I'm kind of anxious on all these different aspects.
I will start answering those, and Mike, you can jump in if you want to. At the last board meeting, we voted to proceed with an LOI, so to get that going. But we haven't issued that. We wanted to talk to membership and give them the opportunity to at least present it to you and see if there was anything that came out of that, red flags or general agreement. The lease, we have a lease that we ready to sign as soon as we're ready to sign it. There are other people looking at the space, but we have been kind of given the priority over them. So we want to move fast so we don't lose the space to someone else.
Absolutely.
So if we were able to commit to it, early or late this month, early next month, which is in this next week and a half, we would have it. The lease duration is a 3-year lease with 2 additional years for optional. So it's a 3-year guaranteed with up to 5 years.
Any cap on the rent in those option years?
Yes, but I don't know what that is. Mike, maybe you could answer that one.
3% cap.
Excellent. That's good.
And I think the last question you had was landlord. It's managed by the Brower Center people. So they are an organization that's a nonprofit. They are, they've filled their building with nonprofit. They want people that meet their mission, that really contribute to that. So I feel like, from what I know, they seem like an ideal landlord.
That's great. I'm always concerned in a lot of the commercial venues. What happens is that you show a very strong interest, and you get your buy-in from your membership, or in my case, from a board of directors of a corporation, and the landlord takes advantage of that and says to the next client, "Hey, I've just about got this thing signed, so if you give me a commitment within the next 24 hours, it's yours." And a lot of landlords operate like that. They'll do a bidding war. And so I don't want to put us into a situation. And the other philosophy I've always had, I preach this over and over again to a lot of my managements, is you have a criteria. And when you see something that meets that criteria, you bind it immediately. You don't wait until every I is dotted, et cetera, because by the time you do that, often somebody else has jumped in. So, I'd love to see it. I'm impressed. I don't know what the rent rate is. I know it's aggressive these days. It's hard to get a low rent, but it'd be great to get that committed like ASAP. I'd be delighted if you said, hey, after this meeting, we're committing tomorrow. It'd be fantastic, but whatever. I leave it to your management team to do the right thing. But it sounds great. It sounds like a great, and I agree with all the criteria. It's just excellent.
Thank you.
I have a question. Along the same lines, is there an agreement or a commitment as to charges for using the auditorium, which I think was one of the best things we had at Clay Street, the ability to hold a large meeting? So do we have a commitment as to what that will cost us?
Yeah, I'll let Mike answer that. I think you probably have the more details off the top of your head, but.
For part of the negotiation, when we're in the early stages of getting just the rent negotiated, they threw in a sweetener, which gives us $2,500 a year to cover any space rental in the building. In addition, why this is a great deal for us is the base rent is far less than it was at the Clay Street location. That space in the state-owned auditorium is about $3,000 for a day. The nice auditorium there is $450 for a half day, which is 8 hours. So it's just, and part of this is all going back to Frank's position, which is who's the landlord. So David Brower's endowment allows them to run this as a break-even operation. So there's no one sitting there thinking like, where's my 15% margin? Plus we need investors and, let's get the best deal. What they're looking for is we want a good community where, it just feels this is a good feeling kind of thing. You can't really put a price tag on that. But Bonnie, to your question, all the spaces in this building are below market rate.
I'd sign this afternoon. Looks
Me
great.
too.
This is Eric. What's that square footage on Clay versus this?
Clay was 2,100 and this is 16. I don't know if that 2,100 included the shared bathrooms or not, to tell you the truth. I don't know if that's raw space or BOMA gross. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that was probably raw space. Plus, it included a fairly large storage room that was very poorly taken advantage of. It did have, the conference space, the large front entry, and then the meeting space in the two offices. So functionally, given the scenario, I think that the slightly smaller space at the Power Center is actually probably more usable than what we had before for our uses.
Mike, is there any possibility, or just I'd like to hear other people's opinion about a longer than 3-year term for the initial period? Because 3 years is comfortable, but I think we're a fairly stable organization and we may be able to do 5 and then perhaps get some concession on the rent. I don't know. That's often the way it works. Now, again, because they're not in that profit mode of a lot of landlords, of course, longer the lease, the more merchantable the lease is to investors. Now, that's not their situation, so they may not care about that. But it's just a thought. We may not want to have to worry about, gee, what's the rent going to jump up to if we're able to somehow have it locked in a little bit longer. Just my thought. But 3 years is certainly reasonable. No question about that. That's fine.
My response would be, during these uncertain times and the entire spectrum of possibilities that we've investigated, it was felt that we wanted to view this as somewhat of a test. In other words, moving from downtown Oakland to downtown Berkeley is going to upset some people, and we wanted to find out, how's that going to work? Proximity to the campus seems like a good thing, but how is that going to play out? This location seems like it's going to work. It doesn't fit, every box that we wanted, but almost all of them. And being in a community and having landlords that are like-minded is pretty important too.
Absolutely.
However, the board also felt that because it's our intention to make every event in the future hybrid, our biggest challenge here is we've got 4 counties, we've got 1.5 million people living there, and membership is spread all over the place. And so when we have events, we can't expect everyone to get in a car and come to downtown Oakland or Berkeley. So part of the nod to that direct membership services, and when it comes to programming, is to offer hybrid. So it's uncertain to us whether a central office is super important. We just went 2 years with no office at all. So this 3-year lease is going to provide us with basically 3 things. One is, how well do we like this particular space, location, configuration, and how well does that play to membership? 2, if it's starting to look like it might not be our forever home, that gives us 2+ years to start really look like maybe we're going to end up buying something, or there's a space out there that needs to be developed. And the third one is the uncertainty that we've experienced, biological and global issues. It looks like we're going to be in another economic issue here pretty soon.
Sure.
So price sensitivity is also part of this deal. So giving us the opportunity to have this 3-year window of, great, now let's figure out exactly what the perfect place is, and then come up with a plan to aim for that. And it might end up being the Brower spot, but you can tell the board has spent a lot of time and effort cogitating over what's best for membership.
And very appreciated.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I'm curious about that intermediate size space. On Clay Street, it was very easy to hold, smaller meetings, even impromptu ones on short notice. So is that space, what's the capacity of that versus, versus Clay Street for this sort of, the brown bag lunch type meetings?
We were looking for an open floor plan because we did want to adhere to our past model, which is there's a bunch of tables and chairs off to the side. And if you want to, put one table out and put 6 people around it, that would work fine. All the way up to having up to 35 people in a theater or classroom style. What we didn't have at Clay Street, which we would have at Brower, are the option of having a larger enclosed conference room, both in the suite and then down the hall. As part of our lease, there's some free meeting spaces, and one includes, sort of a more formal boardroom as well. So we could be doing 2 or 3 simultaneous small meetings at no extra cost. So it's actually more flexible space.
That's great. That's great. Well, this is all pretty amazing, in my opinion. I think you guys did a great job, and this summary was, hit all the important points as far as I can see. Being a former board member and longtime member, I think this is really exciting as a place that could have so much more synergy. We can get, student involvement, which has always been, something that I've wanted to have more of. The opportunity for that ground floor space to have member work and awards, presentations and events. And I've been to multiple events at the Brower Center for like-minded, groups, and to be part of that, I mean, just to me, you can't beat it. So good work.
We agree.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd love to hear other thoughts. We do have some time. Bernie, Lisa, Marcia, Jay.
I'm actually just the real detail, but I'm just curious whether we have any way of knowing what the lease duration, termination dates are for the adjacent leasehold. Because let's say there was an entity that wanted a larger leasehold and we come to the end of our 3-year, the landlord could unfortunately say, well, this other entity is more important to us. Let's push AIA out of the way so we can accommodate this bigger need. Whereas if the adjacent tenant or tenants have a term that's not synchronized with ours, then that gives us some assurance that that kind of scenario can't happen.
It's interesting because the space that was connected to ours was one big space, and they just downsized and put a dividing wall between us and them.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's an excellent consideration.
We could take them over.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or concerns, questions?
Just one other question. What amount of build out is required? Like, have you kind of gotten into any sort of budgeting for, like, will there be a reception desk, or is there already one? I couldn't tell from those photos.
Yeah, there's a small, well, yeah. So what's required to move in would be nothing. We could move in and make it function with what we have. We are considering, things like kitchens and demoing a space that's already built out there to be able to accommodate these bigger events, these 35-person events, just to give us that flexibility. But I would say we could move in today if we wanted to and make those things happen later. We do have money to do these TIs. We've gotten some pricing for some TI work in this building. And if we wanted to make that scope bigger, we, as a organization, have money in the bank to be able to accommodate those smaller TIs.
Brian, one quick thought that I liked how we did Clay Street is that the reception desk can indeed be modular furniture, and that way it's not such a huge investment on a reception desk that after 3 years then you're having to abandon. So I really like what the entire team has done in the past, and hopefully we replicate that again to keep it flexible.
Yeah. The reception desks are interesting design items too. It's the first thing you see when you come into a space, so you want it to be beautiful. I mean, I guess there's lots of opportunities there too.
Well, and I mean, that's an interesting concept. This is Mark again. Because if you actually were coming into our office most of the time in the last 5 or 6 years, that reception desk was not occupied by a person.
True.
And it was not really being used as anything other than a collector of some handouts and a bicycle put behind it and things like that. So, I mean, I think that moving forward is going to be a slightly different analysis of what is needed. The board and Mike did, I think, a really in-depth, well-done review of all the potential spaces, how this one fit, all the bills. And, just briefly getting back to your point, Frank, about the lease terms. I mean, we have to balance the unknowns this time. This is not like we just ended a lease at Clay, decided to move to another location in normal times. So I think that if it was normal times, I would have done a 5-year with a 5-year extension, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we wanted to make sure that it was long enough to be permanent feeling if we wanted it to be and needed it to be, but yet short enough that we're not locked in big time where we wanted to move and really couldn't. And we don't want to break a lease because it's not good.
Yeah, Mark, Mike summarized it very, very nicely too, just like you just did. And I take some solace in that the landlord is likely to be a much more empathetic landlord than other landlords might be in supporting our desire to renew after 3 years. So I'm very comfortable with what you've outlined.
Great, thanks.
I just
Mike
wanted
and
to
Brian, I'm not hearing any, downside to this right now. So that LOI and signing of lease that I was suggesting at the board meeting sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I know. I'll proceed. Go ahead. Hurry up. I like
Absolutely,
Bonnie's
absolutely.
energy
But
on
one
that.
other, just a thought, just throwing it out there, is I've had good experience in the past. This might work in this case of when the landlord, it'll undoubtedly be a lease that the landlord's providing. It won't be a tenant lease. And it's always nice to have that lease be one that is similar to the other leases in the building. So I suspect that's what this landlord will do. Where I had hostile landlords, I had the opportunity in one case of picking a very powerful tenant that was already in the building and demanding the landlord to provide that lease to me, which turned out to be a negotiating plus. But I think in this case, I'm sure I have confidence the landlord is going to be a more equitable oriented landlord. But I just always get worried about some of the sneak clauses in leases. So I hope we're having good counsel on that.
Jay, you had a comment?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank Frank for the mini course in commercial real estate lending. It's really interesting, actually. But I also want to actually commend the board and you, Mike, for the work you put into this. I think this is a great solution. And I say this as kind of a well-known Berkeley hater. I would much have preferred the offices to stay in downtown Oakland. I'm definitely an Oakland partisan. But as you know, I think this is as good as you can do and still be in Berkeley. You know, the Broward Center is a fantastic organization, you know, with like-minded individuals nearby, being close to down the activity of downtown Berkeley, as well as the BART station is fantastic. And then also, I think there's real opportunities, and I echo some other comments around having the Cal be more involved in what we're doing. And that's something that I think has been a real missed opportunity for the chapter that I think we could try to foment going forward. So mostly just wanted to say that great work. I think this is a fantastic solution.
Much appreciated. Thanks, Jay.
Hi, this is Bernstein. I just tuned in and I think, hey, Bonnie, wonderful job. The board did a great job. And having been at the Broward Center, it's a wonderful building and a wonderful space. Thank you.
Thanks for your
Bernie.
comments.
Hi, this is Jamie. I just wanted to say I'm excited at the prospect of the AIA coming to Berkeley. As a Berkeley resident who lives close to BART, that is a great location for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing people in person again. And I do have a question, which is not to raise a complaint at all, but what's the security situation at the Broward Center? Is there controlled access to the doors or the elevators or the stairs, and sort of what's the after hours access look like from that standpoint?
Yeah, during normal business hours, which is 8 till 4, I think, at the Broward Center, there is someone at a front desk, but the door is open. So if you had a meeting, you would just head right on up to the 3rd floor to our office. After for that person who's at that reception desk, it's not a security desk. It's a person just to say hi and help you direct you to the right spots if need be. Then the door is locked because there's no one watching the door. And at that point, then you would use a call box to call up to the AIA East Bay office and be buzzed in to go up to the office.
Okay, so like if we were having 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. events, then attendees would be buzzed in.
Correct. Or we
Cool.
could have someone person the door and let people in, 10 minutes before the event or something like that would be the other option. But yes.
Sure, cool, thank you.
One other thing that turns out to be quite a plus is the entire basement is parking. So it's Berkeley City parking, and you can come from the parking straight up to an elevator and walk out, and you're 5 feet from the front door. So leaving events late at night to get to your car, you really don't have to go out on the street at all. So that was one of the downsides of the Clay Street was it was a 2-block walk to any good parking garage, typically wanting to have someone walk with you. So
Yeah, once the garage across the street closed. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but there it is. So yeah, safety was one of the other concerns for us. This seems a safer location overall.
And also, I know as a Berkeley resident that the Brower Center parking is not as well known as other downtown parking. So
Mhm.
there's more often a space there.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the first things I thought of when I saw the email about the Brower Center, like parking, because it's always been a problem in Oakland. And the safety aspect, I think, is a good point I hadn't thought of. I wanted to throw out one other cool synergy possibility, which is the Berkeley Design Advocates. They're if you guys don't know about them, I've been on and off of the board for 20 plus years, and they're pretty active in Berkeley politics and sort of things related to planning and architecture, with monthly breakfast meetings and things like that. And the group has struggled over the years to sort of find places for those meetings. And so that might be, the offices could be a great place for, a sort of similar minded organization to do that, or even to co-hold events. There's every 2 years, there's a design awards event that the BDA has. I mean, all sorts of, great opportunities by being in Berkeley as well. So that's exciting.
That's great.
Yeah, Eric, you've also highlighted one of the key elements that we're hoping for this new space is to do a much better job of working with other like-minded organizations. And so that's certainly our intention, is anytime there's not an official AIA event, our space should be open to anyone that wants it, that fits. We'll come up with a specific criteria, but Berkeley Design Advocates is right in the center of the target of the kinds of organizations we'd love to share our space with.
Yeah, and then the 20 organizations that are in the building now, there's like transportation planners in there, and as the building, they try to do these social functions to coordinate them, but we could really see the AIE space being that conduit to actually get them to speak together and have presentations together and really promote each other. So I think that's also a very interesting relationship.
In past years, I had been a member of the board and president of the AIA Silicon Valley, and we went out of our way to cultivate our relationships with the government entities, especially City of San Jose, because it gave prominence to our membership for getting projects and just being prominent. And I can see, to complement Eric's comment, is that, for example, if we were to co-sponsor a spur event or something like that, suddenly, our name gets out there in the newspapers about the event, and it's just great for our membership to help their practices to attract business. So I think that's part of our mission, right, to support our membership. And so I think this space does that as well. So I really like the thinking that you guys were expressing, several of you, about partnering with other organizations. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No, fine.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the positive reaction. We also are very positive, and hope to see you guys all in the space soon.
Excellent. Very nice presentation.
you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
everybody. Appreciate
Great
your
work,
time.
everybody.
Great work. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.